Welcome back. Welcome back to Living in Mexico. I'm Ana Maria Salazar. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us once again. I want to thank all of you who've been joining us throughout the years, especially these last 2.5 years as we were all confronting the COVID-19 crisis. It's been important. Uh, well, it's been just important for me to have the ability to share with you information about what's going on in Mexico, both in English and in Spanish. So thank you so much for joining us. In fact, one of the doctors that had joined us literally from the very beginning in early 2020. Can you believe that? Was Dr. Alejandro Macias, who's joining us today. He was the influenza czar. He also was the czar that was able to person in charge of handling the H1N1 crisis. And he, throughout the last 2.5 years, he's been a very important voice in trying to explain to us not only what is COVID-19 and how it affected us and how to take precautions, but also he was able to explain throughout these 2 years the policies behind not only what was going on in Mexico, but around the world. So once again, Dr. Alejandro Macias, thank you so much for joining us here on Living in Mexico.
It's my honor, Anna. You were one of the very first people who I spoke in the news. I remember.
Yeah, no, well, it was nobody believed us. I mean, I remember doing those first shows with you, Doctor, both in English and in Spanish, and people thought we were exaggerating. People, it was hard, even for the government. We were very critical, especially the first months of the steps taken by the government, and people questioned us whether we were being too harsh or exaggerating. And here we are 2.5 years later, talking about COVID-19 as just almost as a normal fact of life. And that's why I wanted to talk to you today, Doctor, because Dr. Hugo Lopez Gatell, the very controversial Deputy Secretary of Health, made some very he made some strong comments this week and once again, he was criticized regarding how he talks about the cubrebocas, face masks. And basically what he said this week, he said face masks are helpful, but they're helpful in order to prevent someone who is sick from becoming a contagious factor or making other people sick. And he keeps on insisting that the face masks are not useful in protecting people who are healthy people who from some contagion coming from people who may be in the room or nearby them. And this has just been the debate about face masks in general around the world. And it came to head this week, as you know, Doctor, because the Mexican government announced that, some announcements were made that face masks are no longer obligatory, and especially for flights. I mean, that's where a lot of people were focusing on. You no longer have to wear face masks if you are flying out of Mexico or any flight leaving Mexico. So, I mean, let's start with this controversy about face mask and whether was that the right comments made by the government, or what's your position on this?
Yeah, we have to adapt our comments to the development of science.
Yeah,
we now know from face masks more than we knew before, because a lot of studies have been done. And now there is no doubt about it. The face mask, it goes both ways. It protects you as a user from others being sick and sending you the virus, and the other way around. It protects others from your own viruses. So I think there is no controversy about that in evidence medicine by this time. And I think we should adjust our comments to that evidence.
Now, there's also some concern that by announcing right now, we're in October, just as the influenza season is starting, and many analysts seem to think that we're going to have a COVID, we're going to have some kind, I mean, increased number of COVID cases again, because we're
Mhm.
facing, we're facing winter. That these comments may not have been, should have not been made. This idea that you're diminishing the use of face masks at a point where, once again, they may have to ask the population to use face masks. Or am I wrong? I mean, we're okay? We're not going to need to use face masks?
Well, as they said, the face masks were not really obligatory in Mexico.
Right.
People used face masks
Mm-hmm.
because people know better. People know
Yeah.
they help. People see
Right.
what's going on in the rest of the world. And I
Right.
think about this time, our knowledge should be the same. And
Mm-hmm.
even if COVID goes away, which will
Mm-hmm.
not go, influenza is coming. This time we
Right.
have had more influenza in the seasonal flu than for the last 10 years. So it seems
Wow.
that the flu is coming back. So
Mm-hmm.
we will maybe have together our natural seasonal flu.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe seasonal flu could come back with a vengeance because it's been silent and it's now attacking a population with low level of immunity. So for influenza, for flu, and maybe that will become combined with COVID-19, because it's going to be very hard to distinguish one from the other. They look very much the same. So we will not know if we are attending a patient with COVID or with the flu. So it's going to be hard. So I think we should keep our recommendation: use face masks